Tēnā koutou katoa, bonjour. Welcome back to the Breakdown on the Road. We are in beautiful Paris because this is where it's all happening over the next couple of weeks. We've got the semi-finals and then the grand finale for the William Webb Ellis Cup. Yes, Mount Everest, and we're hoping the All Blacks will be there. We're going to dissect everything that's happened over the last couple of days right here with all the usual suspects. Plus, we've got a special guest on the program too. But first, a little bit of breakfast.
Wales and Argentina collide in the first of four blockbuster Rugby World Cup quarterfinals.
I don't recall, as an All Blacks fan, feeling this way going into a match like this at a World Cup.
It is England against Fiji.
We were well and truly spoilt last night. What chance of another quarterfinal classic? And he will score for South Africa. It's been charged down by Cheslin Colby.
Bonjour, welcome to Les Sur Boc in Paris. This is the heart of French rugby. Great to have you joining us on the program today. It is a little bit chilly. The temperature has dropped what feels like about 20 degrees in, I think, 48 hours. But it wasn't an icy weekend. It was a red hot weekend of quarterfinal rugby action. Mills Muliaina, Jeff Wilson, Sir John Kirwan. I mean, your initial thoughts on what we've seen. Some are saying the two greatest ever quarterfinal games at a Rugby World Cup, JK.
Yeah, well, for me, the All Black game was unbelievable. Obviously, Argentina getting up against Wales as well, that was an incredible game. But emotionally, the All Black game for me was incredible. And then last night, seeing France go out, I was sort of sad. I was sort of hoping for a France All Black final, to be fair, although we've still got a bit to go. But the standard of rugby has certainly gone up a level, so...
I'm so glad they didn't have a camera on us in the last 3 minutes.
Oh, I did.
They got Mills, Nisbo.
I was watching.
Oh, yeah, it was unbelievable. Let's be honest. The fact that a week ago we weren't sure whether we'd be sitting here talking about the fact that the All Blacks are still alive in a remarkable game. And also, when you look at the France-South Africa matchup, 1 point in it, right down to the wire, Mills. When you talk about what we expected going to this Rugby World Cup, it actually came to fruition. It came alive, the fact that I think both games stood up, and then now we look forward to another fantastic weekend coming up.
Well, we're a little bit unsure. It had everything, didn't it? I mean, the whole week, the build-up, the emotion you're talking about, JK. I mean, even during those last sort of couple of minutes, the impartialness went out the window, didn't it? I mean, we were there. I mean, in terms of we want the All Blacks to win, but the game in itself on Friday was probably the best game I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. But then I'm like you. I'm a bit sad that. I am really sad that France are out, because it would have been a massive, I suppose, great for the game. And their fans have been fantastic if they went all the way through.
Quarterfinals cruel.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. Like, I think if you come to the World Cup, and the worst game in the world you'll ever play, and I've played one, is third and fourth. But at least you're there to the end. At least you're in the top four. But the quarterfinals are so gutting for France to go home, or South Africa, or and for Ireland, who have really been setting the standard. I think that is a surprise. I mean, the one thing I don't want to hear anymore is Southern, and you'll talk about this, and I'm just going to shut you down straight away. Is Southern Hemisphere versus Northern Hemisphere? It's not. It's World Cup, man. Yeah. It's World Cup. It's World Cup. You cannot say Southern Hemisphere's better, Northern Hemisphere's better, which Sir Clive did, right? Because you cannot prepare for World Cups. I mean, Ireland have now gone from a monkey to a gorilla, like we had after '87, and it's just a unique tournament that you can't prepare for.
Well, Oliver Magnay's comments didn't age well, right? If we're talking about comments, remember what he said earlier in the season? The 2023 All Blacks are the weakest in history. We have to give so much credit to Ian Foster, his coaching team, to Sam Kane and this All Blacks side, Mills.
Yeah.
They're no longer flying it under the radar at this World Cup.
No way are they. And I think a certain amount of Kiwis will be feeling that. I think that anxiousness of sort of, they were a little bit divided in terms of the support. I mean, yeah, whilst they love the All Blacks to win, they're still sort of hesitant in some ways, given everything that's happened over the last 18 months with the coaching debacle, NZRU sort of decisions. It's now it's brought the country together once again. You know, the fact that they won, they go out there and win like the way they've done in a massive game. This is now sort of, the country's really excited, and we are all excited about it.
Yeah, but I think all of a sudden the All Blacks have proved to themselves that they aren't good enough to win this Rugby World Cup. They would have still come into this tournament not knowing you needed to put a performance on the board. They've now done that. I couldn't disagree more. This is North versus South. This will always be North versus South because we play the game differently. We approach the game differently in so many different ways, and we don't get to play each other.
You were going to say
yeah, well, you started it. And I'm going to say, look, this is
World Cup.
No, it might be World Cup, but it's always a battle of styles, regardless of who's playing. And we've seen some styles change. We saw South Africa make some shifts against France. They tried to play a little bit more expensively. They did some things really, really well. But ultimately, for us and for me, you know, the All Blacks are now well and truly in the conversation. But it's a matter of they've just given themselves an opportunity. That's all they've done. They've got themselves started. At what they can do from here, they've got not just maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, but they've got to focus on what comes against Argentina.
Well, you know, what is resilience? What is adversity? And I think part of the problem between 80, and I keep going back to this, between 87 and 2011 was that we won everything in between. This particular team has been through the adversity 18 months ago. And so you either break up or you come together, and this group's come together. They've made some really big changes. I was so happy for Sam Kane.
Yes.
You know, he's had a horrible year if you think about consistency of getting on the field. Injured during Super, gets a knock early, and he comes out and has that performance. I mean, I saw him walk off. He could hardly walk off. He left everything on that stage. And when you get the satisfaction of Richie McCaw coming out and saying, you know, that was an amazing performance. But I think the adversity has brought this team together. They now have a style of rugby which we can all understand. I think their discipline, and this is from losing to Ireland last year, their discipline around defence. I mean, are the refs just not reffing in the last 5 minutes, or were the All Blacks amazing for 40 rucks? Probably a combination of the two, right? I've noticed once again that the refs are sort of not picking up stuff in the last 5 minutes, and I sort of get that because it's a big moment, right?
Well, this wouldn't be a breakdown without you attacking the officials in some way and without you two agreeing and disagreeing about something. Grab your cup of tea, ladies and gentlemen, because the show is just getting started. And if you think your heart rate and your pulses come back down to normal, we're going to take it right back up again and relive that test match between Ireland and the All Blacks.
The Irish are describing this match as one of the most important in their rugby history, while the All Blacks are looking to reach the semi-finals for the 9th time in World Cup since 1987. It's the long-awaited, much-anticipated Rugby World Cup quarter-final between Ireland and New Zealand from Stade de France here in Paris. Flying in Duke, got it back! Oh my goodness! What a try that is! Yellow card coming. Jamison gives it Park, and another Kiwi scores for Ireland. Lee sees a little gap. Richie Mo'unga. Will Jordan! What a try that is! Looking dangerous. Oh, penalty try.
He's taking up the yellow card. Oh, how did they get under that ball?
Oh, look at that, his legs. Great strength. Well into injury time here. Carried on by Keller.
I think part of the satisfaction after that test match for the All Blacks, for fans, for players and for former players like yourselves, was the fact that no one expected the All Blacks to win this game except probably those in that environment, right? Their backs were against the wall. When that happens, Mills, I mean, do you get the sort of performance that we saw, that reaction from the team? How does this test compare to ones we've seen in the past where the All Blacks have been the underdogs going into a test match?
This is a little bit different, though, isn't it, in terms of where this team has sort of come from. And that's why it makes it even more special. The fact that it could take you either, together, which it has, these guys, but can also take it the other way. We sometimes you just go, well, it's all right. We're into this place again. We're going to lose again, and that's what we didn't see. And that's what makes that last sort of, 3 or 4 minutes of 30 or 50,000 sort of rucks so satisfying, because at any point in time, those guys could have said, well, hey, we'll give away a penalty, we won't stay connected, but they believed, they stayed within it. And so you've got to take your head off to the belief within that environment, because you're right. For many of our supporters, they would have just thought, well, here we go again. We're going to lose a close one.
Some games can be won on heart and effort, and that's what Aaron Smith talked about, some of the details to them. Yes, they got all the detail going in, but ultimately in the end, it was about performing under pressure, delivering under pressure. You talked about them coming together, going through that adversity. I look at this performance as one of the best I've seen from the All Blacks in my recent history, because being there firsthand and recognising what they had to go through, particularly after last year, all that adversity, and then also there was all these pressure points, and it all added up. There was a steal to Ardie Savea when I spoke to him after the game, when I mentioned, were you motivated for this game? And he said, I was cashing checks tonight. Like, there was history here, and then all of a sudden, they just, well, I say, the haka, was it disrespected? I'm not sure whether you'd say it was disrespected, but the fact the Irish fans decided they didn't want to listen to it, it was a matter of all of a sudden, I think there was a number of things that motivated this All Black team, and that helped get them across the line. When you're talking about 1%ers, and you've got to go to the wall, go as far as you possibly need to, I think this was the game for the All Blacks in terms of mentally and physically, everything came together to get themselves a win.
Yeah, look, I don't think it can be just emotion, right? That's a big, I think the motivation leading to the whistle, I think there was extra motivation after, the Irish have been incredibly confident. There'd been some jibing from the past, so yeah, that will get you to the whistle. But I think what was incredible about this side was Mills has already mentioned the defence, which was outstanding, but it was actually the leadership around the yellow cards. I mean, they didn't panic. Like, they obviously had a plan for that, which is hard to plan for. But the kicking game, the short kicking game from Mo'unga, contesting the ball and coming away from 20 minutes without 2 players and still be in the game is pretty special. If you're Farrell and Sexton, why did you kick to the corners? You talk about this a lot, right? It's about taking your points, and they were so confident that they thought they could kick to the corners and score against the All Blacks. So that will come back to rue them. And like I said, a monkey turns into a gorilla. Get back to Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere. World Cup is a special moment, and you've got to win those special moments. We talked about how big this game was. I think 2-11 was the biggest game in our history for a long, long time after a drought. The second biggest game, I think, was probably Foster's going to get the sack in South Africa, right? And then you go home on a quarter-final. That is a big moment against the best in the world. So it's got to rank as up there, and then add the performance on that. You think about the 2011 World Cup. I mean, it was pretty defence oriented, but this is just a really good game.
And we were in front the whole way. They were never in front of us on the scoreboard. They got close, we pulled away again. They got close, we pulled away again. And like you say, that ability to adapt and to recognise what we needed to do, because you don't know what positions you're going to get yellow cards in games. So how you adjust to where they come from and then what you will do. But I think we got performances from everyone who took the field. Everyone who got on there. You think about Anton Leonard-Brown was playing on the left wing. And some of the work he did defensively, the territory that Rieko Ioane had to cover in this game. But ultimately, the All Blacks have now, they've given themselves, like I said, they've just given themselves an opportunity. That's all it is. They haven't actually won anything. They've won the right to play one more week. And I know from experience, and I've been there, and I can talk in 1999, the fact the moment it can turn, it can go. And it happened to us against France in a semi-final. If you're not on point, if you're not prepared, and I'm not saying this All Black team is that All Black team, but you have to make sure you do this week right.
But that's all part of it, isn't it? That's the experience and the hurt. And we've often sort of walked past, some of the Irish supporters, and they go how the pain that they're feeling. The All Blacks have felt that for about 15 odd years because of that sort of stuff. You can't roll into a Rugby World Cup as being number one and expect to be able to win it and be favourites. This is the hurt that we've been through when we lose quarterfinals, when we lose semi-finals and finals, is that the fact that anyone can win on their day. And I suppose there's a little bit of that with the Irish, that they possibly thought the results from last year, and they go to the corners because the All Blacks will fold. When you're coming to a knockout tournament, the mental side of things, and we had a brief discussion about it before the game. Upstairs, if your mental prep hasn't been done before that game, it's too late. And I feel that that's probably the edge that we had over them, because all those factors, JK, that you spoke about, they could have easily said, it doesn't matter to us. But they stayed connected. But tactically, they stayed connected because they understood their game plan, and then the belief came into it. And that's part of the reason why they got themselves home.
Who had a poor game? No one. Right? When you analyse the Irish, and I'm not going to talk about who I think didn't play or play well, because that's unfair, because they'll all be hurting. But I think there were 2 or 3 players in Ireland that didn't have their best games, whereas I couldn't really fault anyone in the All Blacks. They were all on their game, and that's what it takes for World Cups.
I just want to pick up on a comment that you made. Richie McCaw has come out in defence of Sam Kane. We know that he's had a rough ride over the last couple of years as the leader of this All Blacks team, and he said that was one of the best games that Sam Kane has played in a black jersey, and that is inspiration for your team, isn't it, Mills?
It's huge. Like, we notice it as former players when they're not on the screen, and the stuff that he's doing off the ball, but then he also has to, I suppose, control the team. What he done on the weekend, I'm so glad, because it was actually in between that box. That you could actually see what he's doing. It influenced sort of the game. He wasn't just out there and some other factors that people don't see unless they're at the ground. Notice what he does. But he went to another level, and he's been, there's lots of question marks whether he should be, out there playing, whether he should be on the bench and coming off the bench. I don't know who said that.
Yeah.
Me, that was you.
Yeah, well,
I said it. Yeah.
And the Bash Brothers, that they're now calling them. You wanted to bench Artie Savea a few months ago.
The Bash Brothers.
Hold on. I didn't say I wanted. I wasn't benching him.
You're benching Artie 3 weeks in a row.
No, and how much impact he could have? Well, he's well and truly out of his game, and I can admit, no problem at all. He's proven at this Rugby World Cup he's a world-class number 8. But that's been helped by the combination of Shannon Frizzell and the work Sam Kane and Dalton Papali'i have been doing. But Sam Kane, for me, I think we need to qualify some of this, is the fact it was an outstanding performance. Part of the problem Sam has, he hasn't been able to get on the field consistently over the last 2 years. Remembering, 3 years ago, he was New Zealand's Rugby Player of the Year. He was the best All Black on show. And since then, it's been littered with injury after injury, major injury. He's come back from it. This was just a reaffirming of the quality and class he does have. But once again, I think they pushed the buttons with Sam Kane. I think the whole group had their buttons pushed going into this one. And that's what Ireland had to and should have expected. They should have understood this is what they were going to face. We saw the best of Artie. We saw the Barretts be outstanding. Now they're all playing in the proper positions they should be playing in.
What about the young props?
I mean, how bright's the future at prop when we've got those 4 young men? But I'll say this: Ian Foster was very quick to say we've got 6 props who have been playing well. Nepo Lalala, Ofa Tuangafasi. All of a sudden, he had options to either pick experience or to pick the youth. I'll be interested to see what he does this week.
If I can just come back to my Kane argument, my Kane argument wasn't he shouldn't play. Do you want to finish with him or not? Right? Because we didn't finish with him on the field. We finished with Dalton, which is fine. So that's another proof that we've got guys late like Dalton. Probably his leadership of the Blues has helped. That came on. None of them lost their head. They all went well. But also the other interesting thing is we didn't actually use our bench.
Yes.
No.
Did we? Besides the props, you had Damien McKenzie, and so that really poses the question: what do you do this week? Because this is the banana peel, people.
You always take us there too early, JK.
And bearing in mind also, a player got left out because of protocols, so they had all that as well. His team got leaked really early, and so they just sort of added to the drama. And as I said, all those factors, you could easily, motivation, individual motivation. Sam Kane could have just gone out there and just played for himself because he wanted to prove something. They didn't. They were all on the same page and collective effort in terms of the game plan they had and also the belief.
Okay, well, enough about the All Blacks for now. We'll go back to that in just a moment, but let's get some Irish reaction thanks to Rugby Pass.
You just got to admire the All Blacks. Like, they did what they did. Some of the tries were soft, but then some of the tries we scored were soft, so...
Did they beat us or did we beat ourselves? We didn't land the punch.
There's 2 world-class teams going at it. Worthy of the final.
They've done us proud. We won our group, beat South Africa, beat Scotland, but... just please win it next time in Australia. That's all I have to say.
In Ireland, we just can't have nice things. We can't.
Well done, Johnny Sexton. Thank you for the last 10+ years. Well done.
You'll never replace Johnny. No. The more than you won't replace what we're after seeing there. It's just incredible. It was worth the ticket price. It was worth all the money. It was worth the hangovers. It was worth everything. The guy who got in, I know the boys are shook, but we're definitely shook.
We'll be back in 4 years in Australia, all right? Not getting by the quarter final, but we'll be there.
I'd say the French economy are upset because the Irish are going to be here for the next 2 weeks to spend money. So, look, New Zealand will want to win it. They will win it. I think they'll win it.
They then go all the way.
They'll get a bit of momentum now from that. Yeah. If they play like that, no team's going to stop them.
Ireland fans clearly devastated, just like the players will be. JK, you said you didn't want to get into any individuals in this team, but this was the golden generation, right? This was the time. People were saying it is now or never for Ireland. That is 8 quarterfinals and ultimately 8 failures at Rugby World Cups for this nation.
Yeah, well, it's a tournament that you can't prepare for, right? And so when you can't prepare for it, it's going to go down to the wire, and you need special moments, and you actually need to have lived it. And so I keep saying it, your monkey turns into a gorilla.
Didn't they live it 4 years ago? Didn't they live it in 2019 when we put how many?
I don't think they were as good as they are now.
Pretty much you go back and you look, it's the same group of players. It's this developed and they've had this dominance. They go on a winning streak. If you go on a winning streak like they've been, you beat the All Blacks in New Zealand. I mean, surely you couldn't get any better prepared when you've taken on every challenge. You've won 6 Nations. I mean, they weren't in a better position than they were in this tournament to go on and win it. Now, yes, the draw didn't suit. The fact they got a game that they probably didn't deserve in a quarter-final because of what they were up against, but they've missed their opportunity. The window has closed on this group. I don't see, without Jonathan Sexton going forward, probably Peter O'Mahony's another one who's probably not going to get there. You talk about experience. Those are their two most... Bundy Aki, who's been the standout performer for them in the midfield, probably the standout midfield player in this tournament. So you think of it now, I think... and they'll be competitive going forward, don't get me wrong, but this was the time.
To win it, to win it all.
To have their best... This was their best chance ever, not just to make it through a quarter-final, but to go on and win it, and that now has closed.
Well, they're a little bit different in terms of 2019 because they came in as number 1. And, you know, again, I'll go back to the fact the Rugby World Cup, regardless of whether you're the number 1 sort of team to try and expect it, they wouldn't have felt that pressure. And so they've come in here on the back end of 16, 17 odd games. The key now for them is to try and bottle that up. You know, they won't have the same group of guys. I don't think this was probably their best chance to actually really win it. But now it comes to the development. How do those guys, those core guys, there might be a handful of guys that go on, how do they bottle this up like the All Blacks did in 2019 and have 10 guys come back, right? Go back to their development and make sure that they touch on that pain, and how do they come through so then the next quarter-final they go to the next level. That's the sort of stuff they have to start thinking about now. But the thing about it now is there's probably going to be a little bit of doubt about their development, given where they've got to. They've placed all that sort of hope on this team to be able to go through. It hasn't come to fruition. What's the development looking like in terms of the next sort of 4 years?
Yeah, look, I think for me, winning 18 on a trot coming into the World Cup is not what you need to do. You know, I've always said, remember we lost in Perth, was it? I think before 2015, we lost one of those games to Aussie. It just makes you sit back and go, well, actually, we're not that good. But right? Yeah. So winning 18 in a row, does that mean you kick for the corner instead of taking 3 points? Right? You lose a few games and you just get that resilience and you start,
Because I went and looked at their squad through that winning run, and pretty much was the same guys. Yes. The same team, continually playing over and over and over again. I'd like to think, actually, we won the last 20 minutes of the Test match. When you needed to win, that's the 20 minutes that we won. Yes, we started fast, we talked about that. Then we faced our adversity, but then we won the last 20. No different to South Africa and France. South Africa won the last 20 minutes, the 20 minutes that was critical. And so I look, and you mentioned about that experience off the bench. Look, we haven't even talked about Dane Coles or Sam Whitelock. I think we won that battle. That's what Ireland have to think about, is the fact that ultimately this Test match was won and lost in the last 20 minutes.
Sorry, a pigeon just flew straight in front of the camera, and that's what I've been looking at the entire time.
Gee, but there's no wasps. There's no wasps, so I'm happy as.
They're picking up the croissant crumbs. I've got a question for you. There was so much chat about the All Blacks' arrogance from Irish media in the lead up to this Rugby World Cup. Are the Irish bad losers from what we've seen in the press over the last 48 hours and from some of their players as well in the comments that they've come out with?
Yes. So probably from November, I noticed a shift in humility from November when you and I were in Ireland together. Remember that? I felt that shift. The thing that we all spoke about off air during the week when we were together was how we're quiet. We didn't say anything. And Ireland were doing all the talking. And so I think they just got a little bit ahead of themselves. as fans, which you do. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the All Blacks have been there at times too, but this is a pretty humbling experience for them.
But I think we've lost games at World Cups and in the past that we weren't expected to lose, and I think as fans, I think we've learnt about that. The one thing I've been accused of being a little bit overconfident about the All Blacks was because I always believe in the All Black jersey and what they're capable of. But insane.
So that called
I do
unconscious
understand.
Bias, maybe?
Well, a little bit of that. We'll probably get to talk about that a little bit later. But when I look at this is the fact, sometimes when you start talking yourself up, it's because you've got some doubts. And I think they were still deep down had some doubts whether or not they could win. So all of a sudden,
the monkey.
You start trying to talk yourself in to being that team, being that good. And so you want to keep believing, but you're talking out loud when you haven't gone out and actually proven it. The All Blacks, to me, over time, over history, have proven that in big moments we can stand up. This is a different generation of All Blacks. We've still got a job to do and still got games to win. But yeah, I would have to say, there's no doubt, you've got a sense that maybe Ireland, particularly their fans, are maybe a little bit overconfident going into the game.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of factors, right? And so when you sort of sit there, and this, to be totally honest, this is probably the team, that the Irish would have thought they're there for the picking, right? All that stuff they've gone through, they're on a high. But again, you're coming into a knockout stage and they're probably a little bit sort of, going to the corners. That's the sort of stuff you're thinking, man, this is Rugby World Cup. The All Blacks have done that in history. In 2003 when we lost the semi-finals, we played an expensive game. When you can't afford to do that. You lose. And so, when you come back in, they obviously sort of started thinking, because of that 17 games in a row that they'd won, some of your former players come out and possibly, that you pump them up. Of course you would, because, you're passionate about it. But when you strip the game back and you hear comments like the Irish are in at their best, if they're a little bit, they're at 80%, you can't say that.
Yeah.
Both teams played an amazing game. Okay, it came down to a couple of pressure points. And Johnny Sexton missing that kick. Yeah. That's pressure.
Yeah.
You can't say he wasn't at his best. Well, he didn't prepare well. That was an absolutely fantastic game. And you can't sit there and say, well, if the Irish team were at 10% more, well, what if the New Zealand team were 10% more? Would it have been the same result? Probably.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge for us going forward, isn't it, Kirsty, against Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Is that we can't afford to be overconfident.
No.
We can't take anything for granted, because Argentina, they've beaten us in recent history. They've created history themselves.
So that throws your north-south theory out the door.
What do you mean?
Because it's World Cup.
It's World Cup.
It's unique. That's it.
Okay. Well, let's move on then and let's move forward. Argentina this weekend for the All Blacks, England, South Africa on the other side. People are already giving England and Argentina no chance at all. They already think it will be a New Zealand, South Africa final in 2 weeks' time at Stade de France. How dangerous is that? Mills, people talk about the mental challenge of getting up 6 days after nearly climbing Everest. Yeah. So if you're the All Blacks, how do you go back to ground zero, as they've all been saying, and start again?
They have to, and this is the difficult part. We've started to come back down. I mean, we're still, sort of, really still celebrating.
You three are all still up here.
I am, and it's taken me so long to come back down. I've never watched so many replays of the All Blacks games in my life, even when I was playing. And so they have to, and that's the danger of playing against it. When you're going in as favourites, that you've got to come back down. Even reliving, I would say, some of the places where they've come from, where they have lost. Argentina after that massive game, in South Africa, when they weren't expected to win, they're going to lose their coach. They come back to Christchurch, and what happened?
2019 semi-final.
Exactly, and so they will focus on that. I mean, they've got to get their recovery right first and foremost, because that was a physical game. But I think when you lead into this other week, and this is the mental game, getting yourself back up, slowly building up, and knowing that you're playing a side that hasn't played that well throughout this tournament. They know how dangerous, the Argentinian team will be. They'll be physical, but passionate as well, JK.
Well, but both England and Argentina are tracking in the right direction for a World Cup. This is a tournament-based. Their whole goal was to get through their pools, and they've done that, and they've got through the quarters. But Argentina are getting better. I thought their first game against England was probably one of their worst performances, but they're building on it. If you listen to Checker after the game yesterday, they say simple things. We just want to work hard. We want to win the small things. And Argentina are incredibly hard to beat. This will be as hard as the Irish game, and we need to sort it out early. And I think selection and tiredness is going to be something that we need to think about, because when you think about some of the positions in the All Blacks, you talked about the props. I've got no issues if you chose Offa, on the bench instead of Tamati. I've got no
happy to
issues.
rest people going
Well,
into
I don't
the
know.
semi-final.
I just think it's
You're comfortable with the balance of our squad.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what do we need this week? So we've got a fresh rugby team, you know, and there might be 2 changes. I don't know, or a change, whatever that looks like, or that enthusiasm, so you get that energy back. Because Mills is right, and Goldie, you've been there. You know, this was a massive mountain for us, because we've beaten the number 1 in the world, and now it's about managing this week. You might play the whole team again, but you might not, and that's what we need to, you know, that's the critical thing.
I'll just say this, Argentina have positioned themselves perfectly as the underdog. After losing to England, all they've done is get better as the tournament goes on. Now, it hasn't been perfect. Some of it's been a little bit ugly, a little bit clunky, but ultimately they're still alive. And so now Michael Cheika and their coaching team will prepare to play the All Blacks, a team they've had success against. They've beaten them in New Zealand, so they've had that one moment they need to believe that it's possible. Yeah. So now they know it's possible. With this group, with this coaching staff, they'll go in as underdogs. It can be done, and that's what the All Blacks will be well aware of.
Mills, they'll have no fear for us.
Oh, no way.
No fear.
No way.
And I'm sure Michael Cheika will give it a bit of this week in the media as well, JK. He's
I don't
not
think
one
he
to
will.
be quiet.
I actually don't think he will.
You don't think he will?
I think
Does
he'll
that
try
put pressure on his team?
Yeah, I think he'll try and stay under the radar. He won't do, you know, what Eddie Jones might have done or what Czech has been known for in the past. No, I think he'll stay out, be really quiet, let us do all the talking. So, be an interesting week.
Big test match coming up and big decisions to be made around selection for the All Blacks 23 as well. Stay with us here on The Breakdown.
What a night, what a venue, what an...
Breakdown on the road. Great to have you with us today. Well, as you've just seen, great relief from the former Springboks players, but absolute despair for the French players and for their fans as well, JK. It was actually heartbreaking to watch the end of that game when a nation has got behind this tournament so well.
It's been an amazing tournament. The French fans are great fun. You know, they were in the streets last night. There were bands playing, and so yeah. But we, you know, same thing with the Irish.
Can I ask you a question? Did the best team win?
I think South Africa probably played their most balanced side. Are they playing within the spirit of the game with some of their HIA stuff and people rolling on and rolling off?
You've been asking for rotating subs for a year, though.
Yeah, it's still not the law.
They've found a way.
Yeah,
they've found a way to.
But it's still not the law, mate.
Did you not think the best team won?
What's that?
Did you not think the best team won?
Well,
because of your picks, or
what's that? Because of my picks? No, not because of my picks. I just asked the question on the night of the teams out of the 2 teams. I actually do think the best team won.
You do think the best team?
I do think the best team won because you can't change the scoreboard, and you think about who controlled, I think, a lot of that match. Yes, France played a lot of rugby, made a lot of nice line breaks, but also I think if you look at the way they managed the games, the Springboks.
Do you believe in the bounce of the ball?
What's that? Well, I mean, it actually looks, the first game against France, we had the bounce of the ball in the last try of the match go against the All Blacks. I do believe in the bounce of the ball just happens.
But it went against them, right? Because I thought they were really strong for 30 minutes, and South Africa scored a couple of tries where the bounce of the ball went their way.
But it's an 80-minute game. It's an 80-minute game.
I get
it's an 80-minute game, and I think the Springboks, were the best in the back end, the last 20.
But so if we're talking about World Cups, how do you judge the best team winning? It's actually on the night. Everything before is irrelevant. Totally irrelevant.
Yeah, it is.
So they won the last 20 minutes. That's the most intelligent thing you said. Did you say that?
I did. I just said that. But
Exactly.
I'm saying, but I think the best team did win.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Yeah.
I think what they did in terms of getting, you know, the bounce of the ball, they set it up nicely. You know, when they got a little bit of sort of inroads out wide, then you would think they'll keep the ball in hand and go wide again. But what they didn't, they've actually isolated the back and then put a kick up, which you wouldn't have thought they'd done. And that's how you create getting the bounce of the ball, because you all know you're on the same page and getting them behind it. Okay, yeah, they got a couple of tries, maybe fortuitous, but that was on the back end of them understanding what they're going to do. I thought when the way that France started, I was thinking, far out, there goes my picks out the door. They were so shocked. Dupont. How does Dupont come back after that? And he was so influential. But then the way, you know, the Springboks have sort of brought themselves back and going, yeah, tactically, you know, getting the sort of the HIA and things like that involved, but they know how to win knockout rounds. They know how to win knockout football, and that was always going to be the case leading into this game.
But I actually thought, and I've been critical of them in the past, I thought the balance in that game was really good between attacking it. I mean, they brought it back. The back three were counter-attacking. They were sitting in the midfield. So I thought their balance on the game was way more expansive, way more balanced.
I thought they did it right.
We can't throw comments out there like the rotating substitutions without explaining it. I was there at the game and it was quite confusing to see players coming on and off without hearing the commentary and what was going on through the referees' mic. So what was actually happening with the HIAs and how many players came off and on?
Well, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of confusion about some collisions, whether or not players needed HIAs. They're coming to the sideline, they go to the tunnel. Then, of course, 10 or 12 minutes later, they're allowed to come back on the field. Look, whether or not it was a tactical play by South Africa, whether or not it's just the way things, whether the things, well, it could have been just the way things played out. What we need to do is we need them to get them explain and get World Rugby to explain exactly how this was able to happen.
I want to hear what JK thinks.
What about the 450 million water breaks at scrum time? How many times you heard Ben say, water boys off, water boys off? I mean, that was incredible in the last 20 minutes, right? And good on them. I think if you can get away with slowing the game down, go for it.
Well, look, they came out.
If you can get away with it.
We talked about the bench, the makeup of their bench, the experience, the fact they decided Faf de Klerk was going to come off. Andre Pollard comes on and kicks a significant penalty. You know, all the things that they wanted to do, I think, in that game. They created some of that unstructure. Ball hits the ground. They've got great speed, but but they did some random things. Who's seen a mark being taken inside the 22 and called for a scrum?
Yeah,
and they called for a scrum.
Bizarre.
So but how? I can't remember if I've seen that before, but they were clear exactly what they wanted to do.
Is it
holding cards down as well? When has that happened?
Is the changing of, is it in the spirit of the game? And do we need to forget about things being in the spirit of the game anymore? We're too professional now, right? You see some guys hitting the floor when they might not have got a big head knock. So if we're going to have leniencies in this, and this is where World Rugby often don't think about the consequences of some of the things they do. They need to be way more retrospective. So you've got to take your hat off to the South Africans. They know how to win these big games. They know what to do. And I thought last night, to actually answer your question, the best team did win. I thought France panicked a wee bit in the last 10 minutes. The body language of them all in the last sort of 7 minutes, it felt like they'd lost. Dupont was out of juice, was he? Like, he hasn't played for a few. Like, for me, the last 10 minutes, they just stopped believing. When the game, you need to really believe then. So did the best team win? Yeah. Do they do things that make us all sit up and go, is that legal, South Africa? They do, but it's obviously okay.
It obviously is legal because they
got away with it.
They good on them.
Yeah.
Like it's great. But the thing is, they know how to win knockout football, and that's what's so great about the South African team.
I can't wait to see the comments on the breakdown feed after this one. You're breaking French hearts all over again by talking about this. We've got a former French international joining us in the next 10 minutes as well, so we'll go in more depth about that game. But England and Fiji. Fiji came oh so close. They had their chances, didn't they, to make it through to the final four, to the semi-finals. They need more tier one tests, don't they? They need to be put under these pressure moments more often, Mills. We're hearing that it won't happen in the Rugby Championship until after 2025. Can it not happen earlier? Can you not start these discussions? JK, you're screwing your face up.
Yeah, I'm screwing my face up because I wrote down what Uncle Bill Beaumont said. He said, we will be creating more tournaments, so I'm going to keep you to that, Bill. I think it must be a financial issue. Why can't we bring them in straight away? It must be financial, right? And if it is financial, then World Rugby need to compensate.
Oh, there'll be existing
but they just need to compensate.
Well, there'll be existing contracts in place between the Rugby Championship sides and all these sorts of things, and the fact that we're not in a position.
What did we do during COVID? We changed everything, right? So why can't we just change
adapt, right? Adapt.
Yeah, adapt and change it. So if there's an issue around money, World Rugby about to make $550 million. They need to invest more money. Well, that's what I heard.
Was that down the corridor?
Hey, don't wreck a good story with the truth. But listen, like, let's just do this stuff a lot faster. We've got to stop moving so slow. Fiji deserve to come into the championship straight away. Samoa and Tonga, okay, maybe because of their results, and life's about results, we try and bring them in. Should the Six Nations have a first and second division, bring Portugal and have a playoff? We need to make decisions quickly because the second tier nations, and we probably shouldn't even call them that anymore, I think are being punished through lack of competition. Don't let them play each other. They need to play first division sides.
What Fiji proved in this Rugby World Cup is they need to get more opportunity. Also, with more opportunity, you think they might get into a situation where there's a little bit more trust in their ability, and the fact that...
No, I'm just going to say that Uncle Bill did the World Rugby have been paying for the Super Rugby extension, from what I've heard. So they put a lot of money into Fiji, and they've seen the results, right? Super Rugby.
I know we've got to go, but I've just got to, I don't want to be sitting here in 4 years' time and having the same conversation, because it seems to be the trend every time after a Rugby World Cup. We need to get it moving faster.
Well, it might be a little bit warmer in 4 years' time, because we'll probably be in Sydney rather than in the winter months in Paris. Don't go anywhere, still plenty more to come on The Breakdown. We have 1987 Rugby World Cup finalist Frank Minnaar joining us in just a moment. Well, we have a very special guest. We've shipped Mills out and we've brought in former French international Frank Minnaar. Frank, bonjour. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's great to have you here in your hometown with your former sparring partner as well. Have you forgiven JK and New Zealand yet? How are you feeling this morning?
Well, first of all, I'm extremely happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and congrats for the fantastic game you've done. I think it will give you a huge confidence for the future. And what a defense! It was amazing. All those quarterfinals are amazing. And unfortunately for us, I have a little headache after 2 days.
Really, really special for me to have Frank here, because Frank and his era were real heroes of mine. New Zealand was going through a transition of how we wanted to play Goldie. I think we're a bit 10-man rugby, and Frank led what I would call that French flair, but also had champagne and wore a bow tie at halftime in a club final. So for me,
that's your dream.
That was my dream. It was beautiful, but also another beautiful gesture. And I always think about Frank because he bought the goalposts of Eden Park when they changed them and made them into statues and sent them to everybody. So I always love seeing you, Frank. It was lovely to give you a big hug before. But I thought that the French possibly lost their way or didn't believe in the last 10 minutes when I felt that the game was still up to win. They sort of got a bit rattled.
Well, as you know, at that stage everything is on details, and the addition of too many mistakes, unfortunately, I have to say, it make the games. And I agree, but I think they did well. I have to also to celebrate Antoine Dupont. It was not easy for him maybe to take this decision to play. He did it. It's a new team. We'll see for the future. And but no, honestly, the best team won this game. And we're always talking about power of these African teams, South African teams, but we must consider today that they are also using speed in a very good way.
Yeah,
because I wanted to ask the tournament as a whole, in terms of, we knew it was going to be a wonderful tournament. Do you think the whole of France has embraced this World Cup?
Well, I hope so. I hope that now the people will continue to give their enthusiasm, and sometimes the Froggies are a little bit, I would say, inside, but they must consider that this event is a huge event. The semi-final will be special. We saw how it was tied in the quarters, so we can expect to have fantastic games. The question for you guys is to know if you're going to rest for the semi-final or to consider that those Argentinians can be very dangerous, and I think they can be dangerous. But again, we will have, I think, a very nice end of tournament.
Dupont, you've got this mix of French players that I believe are the world's best. We've been third behind Ireland and France. Amazing group of young players. Dupont, one of the best players in the world. Why is that? Has French rugby changed their dynamics? Is it the club competition? Is it investing in high performance? Where are all these brilliant players coming from?
Well, I think it took a while for the northern hemisphere to come back to a very high level. You in the south were in advance, and today we are also becoming professional. We have a nice squad, a lot of good and precise people. I think Fabien Galtier had the intelligence to ask other people to come. For example, this huge Welsh guy for the defense. And so it's more open mind. And today we are maybe looking out of France what is working and what is better. And we became professionals. So I think it's the reason why this championship is going well today.
So, sadly, France are now out of a Rugby World Cup, but which side do you think now the French people should be supporting?
Who will you support?
No.
Well, you know, guys.
Hey.
No, it's an evidence for me, but it's an evidence for me. John was very nice with me, but he was the star of the first Rugby World Cup, and I have that in mind. And this is the reason maybe I took for some minutes the name of Eden Park. As you maybe know, we cannot talk about advertising, but I mean, I'm extremely proud today to develop this brand in France, and this is due to this huge souvenir I have from your country. Jeff, I'm sorry I didn't play against you, but I would have loved.
I would love to as well. I've got some memories against France, not some great memories to be fair, and big moments. But there's a special relationship between the two countries, right?
Yeah. I think it's a mixture. We love you. We love you the way you're playing, and we're trying to input sometimes 1 on 10 times a little touch of French flair, and this is very important for us. We like to run the ball, and we must insist on this World Cup to see, of course, power, but also the ball moving from one place to another one, and rugby is all the time that for us. I think we are here, of course, to fight, because it's a collective fighting sport, but also to run the ball, and this is very important for everybody.
Connections in rugby are so powerful and so important. It's so beautiful to have all three of you together and sharing some memories, and I know that they're going to be shared for the next few hours when we're off camera as well. Well, last week we had a book giveaway, Wayne Smith's book. We asked you the question, send through your quarterfinal predictions. One man got it correct, Bruce Woodhouse. Congratulations to you. You have won a signed copy of Wayne Smith's book to give
Did
away.
he not get it correct as well?
JK thinks he gets everything right every
Your whole
week.
bracket was perfect, apparently.
It was.
So to JK and to Bruce, well done. We've got another question for you and another book to give away. What position did Frank play for France?
I got that one too.
That is your question. Don't give us the answer. All you need to do is send it in to thebreakdown@sky.co.nz with your answer, and we'll have another book to give away next week. But before we let the three of you go to get into the croissants, the coffees, or maybe a little bit stronger to keep warm, predictions for the semi-finals. Where do we start? Do we start with you, JK, for both of them?
Yeah, a bit of a banana peel from a performance point of view for us. Argentina on the rise, but I think if we play to our ability, we'll win that. I think the English and South Africa game, I think, is going to be a really interesting one, but I still think South Africa will go through. So.
Oh, look, if you go on form, you go on going into this game, the two games, I'm pretty confident that the All Blacks should be able to get through. But it won't be comfortable. I don't think semi-finals are not comfortable. They're not supposed to be comfortable. There are going to be big moments. You know, we suffered 2 yellow cards, so I look at it and I'm looking at the Springboks. I think would be too big and too strong for England, and the All Blacks will get across the line. Frank, for you?
I agree, and I was maybe afraid about having too much injuries during those quarters final, because it was really tough. But I totally agree with those predictions, and. I hope the best for the All Blacks, honestly.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to hear that you're behind the All Blacks, that the entire nation of France will now be behind the All Blacks as well. It's been an absolute an absolute privilege having you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us on the Breakdown on the Road. Come and see this place as well. Les Bock, Fred and the team have done a wonderful job here looking after us with everything we possibly need. So come and check this place out. It is the coolest rugby bar and pub in Paris. Thank you so much for joining us. Au revoir, matiwa, and we'll see you next week.
Here it is! Call it! Yes! That's the penalty! And that's the game! All Blacks into the semi-finals!
Wow, the All Blacks!
When we finish the game and then look up around the crowd, you look out for the people in the All Black jerseys. Thank them first and foremost for that support. We feel it, and we're glad we could put a smile on their face.
Unbelievable game of rugby, and the All Blacks are through to the semi-finals.
So it's been a dream come true really for for all of us, and I might include today as well.